Hey everybody, welcome to episode 185 of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. This is Dan Sfera. I got Chris Sauber. We're doing another podcast, this time in the Global Clinical Trials headquarters, global headquarters, for global, pun intended. We just switched to eSource.
Well, in the process.
We're not going to get into that, though, in this podcast, because I just interviewed the founder of that company yesterday. There's plenty of that. We're just going to talk, I think, today, site initiation visits, because that's what you came here for. So you came here for a SIV, for a really lucrative study.
If you can find patients for it, sure.
Where they are cherry-picking patients.
Yep.
So they said... Okay, get this. They said during our SIV that they're expecting a 90% screen fail ratio.
Yep.
However, they just lowered that today, a year later. So first of all, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot. We can get into SIVs. We can get into good budget studies. We can get into cherry-picking patients. We can get into screen fail reimbursements. So you said... You were telling Monica that don't worry about screen failures. We get paid for...
Up to 50 of them.
Up to 50? At no ratio.
Correct.
So your first 50 subjects
I didn't read
screen...
I didn't read the contract closely. I would imagine that's with one randomization.
Oh, so you have to have a randomization.
I don't know.
First.
I haven't read the contract, but I would assume.
I think if they see a good effort, I think they'll pay.
Sure.
So... Okay, so talk about those studies, because a lot of them are like this now. There's a huge supply of studies that are out there on the market, but a lot of the studies that are out there are complicated, and they are looking for needle in the haystack type of patients. So talk about why you don't necessarily want to not take one of those studies if you negotiate the budget properly, because that's like your expertise, right?
Sure. I mean, there's a number of reasons to take a study, right? It's so that you can make yourself known, your site, your company, with a sponsor. You can gain experience for an inexperienced PI. But as Dan had said, if the budget is negotiated well, oftentimes it's worth a study to do a study for one patient enrolled. For this particular trial, again, needle in a haystack to a certain degree. A completed patient is, if I recall correctly, $107,000, and the fees, startup fee and such, I think total somewhere in the realm of $30,000. So it's one patient's worthwhile. I mean, it's nothing like doing a vaccination trial and having 200 patients.
Those
right?
are volume.
Right.
Those are volume.
Right. And a little simpler to do, typically.
Right.
The patients are readily available, so, easier. But one patient pays fairly well for this trial. So,
right. I like the 50 screen failures. So the first 50 patients can all screen fail. Try to pull it up while we talk.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Because there's so much to unpack here. So first of all, while you're looking for that, SIV, site initiation visit, is the monitoring visit after your site selection visit, after you have your regulatory and ideally you want your contract and budget done, although we still don't have ours fully executed.
Well, that's because there's an amendment.
Right. There's a protocol amendment, then we had to amend the budget. But basically, SIV is the last visit that, in theory, the site will be allowed to enroll patients after. So we already have IRB approval. We have all, if not, or most, if not all, of our rater trainings done. We're just missing now the contract. We're missing like a dummy MRI. It's for an Alzheimer's study. But basically, we're ready to start screening in the next couple of weeks here. So that's what SIV is. It's pretty important that most of your staff members are there for the SIV because the monitors can document training.
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably the most important thing they do at SIV, other than making sure you have everything in place. We go through in our CRA Academy an entire week of this SIV. It's an entire module with its own webinar. But in a nutshell, that's what SIV is. It trains all the staff on the new protocol. The site already should have IRB approval, informed consents, source documents, which we're now going to... we just switched from paper to source literally today, from paper to eSource. So I had to fill out new forms as far as CFR Part 11 compliance, which are for electronic signatures. We did that. So now we're going to have our source created soon through eSource, and then we'll be ready to screen subjects.
Yep.
And this is a very good budget, and we're lucky to have a coordinator, Monica, who many listeners and viewers of Guru Nation know, because she's been on almost as many of these as you have been. Not quite as many, but almost. She's a go-getter, and the way we incentivize her is we pay her a fair salary as a coordinator,
Right.
but we also give a bonus, 4% in her case.
Be careful with this bonus stuff.
Well, go ahead,
It's
talk.
frowned upon.
It is frowned upon, but it's the reality.
Sure.
So frowned upon. It's more frowned upon for doctors, not necessarily for
Any staff. Right? Like, for example, if you pay a coordinator a bonus for patients screened, right? That's
Yes.
definitely frowned upon, right?
By
Or even what's even more so frowned upon is randomization
who's frowning.
or completion.
Who's doing the frowning, sir? It's not me.
Sponsors.
Haha. I don't think so. I think yes, in a way, but the sponsors
Not
are
in
on
a
the
way. I've seen it asked. IRBs as well.
IRBs, yes, but the sponsors. If you have safeguards in place to where it's not a ridiculous incentive, like we're giving her 4% of the profits, so it's not like we're giving her like the whole study budget.
But to a degree, she is incentivized
Yes.
to get patients in the study,
Yes.
to make sure they complete,
Yes.
right? And that's what they frown upon. They don't want undue pressures put upon the patient,
Right.
or for the coordinator at the site to do something that otherwise shouldn't be done.
Now
right?
sponsors are. I don't think sponsors necessarily frown upon that.
Well, for certain IRBs do, because I've
IRBs
seen in their initial submission where they ask, are there any bonuses paid at site level?
IRBs do ask that. So we maybe have to change it from a bonus, just like the referral fees become marketing fees.
Right.
The bonus becomes performance incentive. Not based on recruitment, just a performance incentive. It could be site metrics, keep queries down, all those things she's expected to do anyways.
Right.
Because if she doesn't keep those up, then we don't get the study. We get put on a screening hold.
Sure.
And then, so there's different ways to word it. But sponsors wouldn't frown upon this. They're on the same page as us.
Yeah, I suppose.
We just came from an investigator meeting. Those sponsors are willing to do anything we would want, as long as it's within FDA guidelines, which are, like you always say, extremely vague.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, you can do whatever you want as long as you're not breaking any GCP or FDA guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, they even mentioned at the investigator meeting, be careful of the verbiage you choose, right?
Yeah.
Would, should,
Right.
will.
Go through that. Unpack that, because I know that guy's speech resonated with you.
No, it's just something that we've discovered as well not too long ago.
Right, but Chuck was his name. You know I'm supposed to email him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good
I'm gonna write
reminder.
it down right now. Email Chuck, because I'm supposed to interview his wife, who's not an FDA auditor. Helps sites prepare for
Preps.
FDA audits. Give Guru Nation, who wasn't lucky enough to be in San Diego with us,
So it's real simple.
and drink all kinds of drinks later in
Right.
downtown Gaslamp.
Sure.
There were a few Guru Nation people there randomly showed up,
Right.
but most of them were not. So give them, they didn't have the privilege of hearing this Chuck guy speak.
Well,
What did he say?
to summarize, it's very simple. You have, I've known this since, the very beginning of my involvement in research. But it goes beyond just the protocol. So I was once told by a CRA, the first CRA I worked with, Make sure and read the protocols, though you're an attorney reading a contract, a legal document, right? And it very much matters how things are stated, right? If the protocol says you should do something, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do something, right? If the protocol states you will do something, that means you have to do it, right? Same thing holds true for your documentation and your source docs, right? So it matters. Your word selection matters, right? When it's reviewed by an FDA auditor.
Even when something as simple as creating your source templates.
Yes, what I'm
which
saying.
now,
very
luckily, we get eSource.
Sure, you have to be very careful of your word choices.
That's something we didn't ask Raymond about, their word choices for eSource, but it looks like they're just so generic that we're not going to get in trouble.
And you can alter it too.
Yeah,
you can modify
You can
it.
custom. Oh, so you heard that part?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so anything else Chuck said? You asked him specific things about what the FDA looks at. We had one site that we used to work with, that we no longer work with, but we still interact with because they're pretty cool people. The FDA showed up unannounced at their site.
Oh yeah.
Which is rare.
And said, "Here's a list or give me a list of your studies."
Yeah, and it only happens when it's for cause.
Yeah, interestingly enough, right?
And they had a for cause, and at the end of the 3 days, according to the coordinator, they said there's no issues. They told the PI that the coordinator needs a raise. That's what the FDA auditor told the PI.
Hearing this from the person telling the story.
Right, so take it with a pound of salt.
Or at least a grain, minimal.
Or some tequila shots, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Make it more believable.
Well, I don't doubt that maybe the CRC receives some
She's
props.
a good coordinator.
Right? That, your documentation looks good. Coordinator's doing a good job. I wouldn't doubt an FDA auditor would say that, but at the same time, it would kind of surprise me as well.
Right. But that's crazy that they can just show up unannounced. So basically, the take-home message was be prepared from this Chuck guy. And that's quite honestly one of the reasons why we moved so quickly on this eSource, because it allows us to be compliant with FDA guidelines in real time.
Sure.
There's no more keeping lab results, batching them for the PI to come look at. Now he can do it in his office.
Right. Wherever he's located.
Yeah. He can just have oversight. So it's fantastic. We'll talk a lot more about eSource because it is 2019. Or
not quite, but
in my mind, it's already 2019.
You have 3 more months to go.
In my mind, it's already 2020.
4 months to go and some change.
In my mind, it's already 2020. I don't turn 40.
Oh my God.
I don't turn 40 until 2021.
That's a year and a half away.
Listen to this. I don't turn 40 till 2021. July 2021. So I got a good way to go before I'm 40. In my mind, I'm already 40. Seriously.
Just rounding.
I consider myself 40 even though I'm just turned 37.
Oh, okay. Well, you're not even rounding up then.
Right. Well, in a weird way, it relieves the anxiety of, when you're a kid, and then when you're
rounding up, not rounding. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, when you're a kid, and then when you're in college, you're like, by the time I'm 40, I will have this, this, and that. It just relieves that pressure because it's like, okay, if I think I'm already 40, it's good. It helps me focus, even though I'm only 37, and we got till 2021. But anyways, in a 2019,
is this the way you pressure yourself?
It's the way I take pressure off while simultaneously adding more pressure.
Because don't you have certain goals, accomplishments that you must meet by a certain age? So
I used to.
Oh, no longer?
No.
You remove those?
Yeah, recently I did that.
Okay.
I think that's that's one surefire way to potentially not get those goals is to set
mismanage.
Arbitrary numbers.
Causes mismanagement because you're in a haste.
Now what I have is just hypotheses and ideals like this. We want to have a network of sites. We want to have a CRO to get equity deals in biotechs. That's the thesis, and then just let the ball fall where it may.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you set that up, you're good.
Sure.
It's like putting out 100 rain buckets right now. It's not raining. May not rain tomorrow. May not rain the next bit. But when it does, we're going to catch a lot of water.
Hopefully
right?
so.
So it's the same thing. And it'd be stupid to say, well, I hope it rains by next week. I mean, what's the difference if it rains by next month? Really, in the grand scheme of things, nothing.
I suppose that's fairly true.
Set up the buckets.
Be prepared.
Yes. But anyways, so Chuck scared all of us. That's what they do at these investigator meetings. They scare your PIs. Our PI from our other site, it was very beneficial for him to be there. It feels like he learned a lot.
Sure.
Okay, so we had our SIV today. Screen fails we talked about. We talked about what a SIV is. Cherry picking patients. Sponsors tend to do this.
Not 10. It's almost always.
Yes. It's kind of cheating. Because they get better results even though it's not for real world patients.
Obviously, it's within the FDA guidelines. Otherwise,
they can do whatever they want, yeah.
Well, sure. But I'm sure they have feedback from the FDA.
Oh, yeah.
On whether or not this is accurate to what the FDA would want to see.
Right.
Right, in regards to inclusion and exclusion. I'm sure they get feedback on that.
Right. Now, so it's, coordinators, PIs, they're all supposed to go to SIVs. But what about for site owners? What's the benefit of a site owner attending a SIV? Like, what did you get out of joining this meeting today, if anything?
In this meeting? Nothing really.
That's not true.
Well,
you asked so many questions.
Well,
you had to have gotten something.
It was more to satisfy curiosity, really.
Okay.
Opposed to how does this question I'm asking now improve the likelihood of me being able to enroll a patient for the trial? And if you own your own business, that's the ultimate goal, right? That's where you make your money.
Right.
Getting studies and getting patients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't recall any question that I asked improving the likelihood of being able to get a patient.
What I got out of it was it clarified it because I don't consider a study real until we get to an SIV. And then it becomes worth my time to actually look at deeper. And so for this one, I refamiliarized myself with the IE.
Mm-hmm.
And then I immediately, when they left, I talked to Monica about where we're going to get these patients from. Luckily, she already has the list.
Yeah.
So
and
we're good.
The funny thing is, the list was developed for another sponsor who did a study on this indication to develop their own database.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of interesting.
And we already have the MRIs and PET scans, which for the study we need as part of the inclusion criteria.
Sure.
So we already have that part down. We can even upload those to our eSource. It's right there. Right. Now, the good news, that was the bad news of cherry-picking studies. Cherry-picking patients, like difficult studies, where they're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not quite a needle in a haystack, but it's difficult.
It's without a doubt difficult.
It's difficult. That's the bad side. The good side of these patient cherry-picking studies is that the budgets are usually very good.
Right.
Do you want to talk about this budget?
I already did.
No, not the screen fills.
No, I already did. You were busy writing over there.
Oh, I was busy writing email Chuck.
Yeah.
So what's the budget? Tell me.
Oh, you weren't listening at all.
No.
So the completed patient, I believe, is $107,000.
Okay.
So what I had said, so I'll repeat myself. Completed patient budget's $107,000, and invoiceable fees for one patient's roughly around $35,000. So you're looking at $140,000.
What are some of those invoices?
What you would get for any trial, startup, and things of that nature. But then there's other fees.
You're not counting MRIs and PET scans?
No.
Okay.
No. Those are included in. Those are not invoiceable. Those are included into the.
So what else is invoiceable? Startup.
Pharmacy.
Okay.
Just all the typical stuff.
So we can make $1 million gross revenue from the study with what, like 7 patients, 8 patients?
No, less than that.
Really?
Oh yeah, 10 patients. The budget's $2.5 million.
Huh. Monica said she has what?
6.
6?
So you figure, even if, they expect the screen failure rate, as you alluded to, is 90%.
No, they said 80 now.
Oh, yeah, but
They dropped it.
Sure, but it's probably still 90
Right.
because they didn't make the study any easier with the
Well, they
amendment.
dropped it based on the sites that are already screening.
Yeah, which are very few, right?
Right.
So,
And they just cherry pick their patients like we're doing. Like they have a few that they know are going to get on.
sure. So as it moves along, because there's a lot of patients in this study,
Yeah.
amazingly so with this difficulty.
It's like 200 per this study and then another 200.
Well, it's a
for-
total of 1,000 for all the different arms.
Right. But we're only on one.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I would assume all the others are just as difficult, right? So once everybody goes through their database and finds all the patients they think likely, the screen failure rate's going to skyrocket.
So Monica has identified 6 that we already know meet a lot of the inclusion criteria.
Sure.
The most important one's the MRI and the PET scan.
Right.
They already meet that part.
As far as we've determined, right? So
Yes.
they still have to look at it and
They have to look at it. which
agree.
They will because it's the interpretations of the same vendor we would have sent them to.
All right.
But there's other ratings assessments that they need to qualify for, so we can't control that.
So to answer your question, 5 patients should be somewhere in the realm of 1.25 million, but
Just for this study.
right, but you have to also remember that a lot of that money is going to go back out in fees.
Yeah, and it's a long study, right?
Probably 20% of that will go back out in fees,
Right.
paying for the PET scans and MRIs and
But it's
such.
easily a 7-figure
Oh yeah,
study
well,
budget
without a doubt.
if you can enroll like a small amount of patients.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
That's good, and we got 4 more studies similar. Not quite as good budgets, but
No,
some
nowhere
of
nowhere
all,
near.
all easier to recruit.
Oh, one is extremely easy.
And so is the other one based on the hack that our monitor taught us,
Right.
which I won't get into. Never had a monitor teach me a hack.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Say, don't worry, I'll look the other way. Just do this.
Not necessarily that, because it's technically within protocol what we're doing.
I don't know if it is, honestly. Oh, protocol, yes, but
Yeah.
would it be within? Would an IRB approve of this?
Yeah, because still relies on the legally authorized representative.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, but it's definitely in the gray area.
Okay.
So SIV, anything else? A lot to unpack there. Big budget, cherry picking.
CRAs were nice.
Ah, yeah.
They were fairly compliant to my demands, which was unusual, right? Usually only the PI can get away with making demands, right?
What did you demand?
I have limited time. I need to be out of here in 20 minutes.
Yeah, and they did.
Well, I told them 30. Let's get this done in 30. They told us an hour and a half. I said, let's get this done in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
They didn't. But they blamed us because we were asking a lot of questions,
We were
which,
asking
okay,
a lot
I'll
of
accept
questions.
that.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I took a call, and that's how I got out. Phone rang, took it, left.
Yeah.
When I came back, everyone's gone.
It was done.
Yeah. It was a good SAV. Monica spent the whole day with them.
Yeah. No, very, very nice CRAs.
Yeah, and they were very open to eSource.
Mm-hmm.
Once they realized exactly what we're using the eSource for. So, okay, good. Anything else? We can wrap this up.
No?
Webinar tomorrow. Subscribe to the email list at theclinicaltrialsguru.com to catch all of our webinars, but it will go on the podcast also, and it will also go on YouTube, so you don't even have to do that. All right, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Catch you all later. Bye-bye.